Got it. All right. So, welcome to Jewish Mysticism Lessons in Tanya, chapter 29, the fourth and second to last lesson of negative emotions. If I may say so, I don't know for everyone else, but this one has been having a tremendous effect on me this particular season. I've been trying to take it more to heart, trying to act more based on this Tanya. It's very powerful. These lessons are very, very powerful, there's no question. And so we're going to pick up where we left off. In the Tanya, in the practical Tanya by Rabbi Miller, who's joining us in 2 weeks, in 1 month's time, we are holding on page 324. And the handout, you should have handout for chapter 29, Spiritual Insensitivity. I think everybody in the physical room is already registered for the dinner, and now is a good time to invite anyone who joins us digitally. On November 28th, we will be hosting Rabbi Miller, the author of the Practical Tanya, right here at the Pasadena Jewish Academy, for a celebratory dinner in honor of Yutet Kislev, what is commonly known as the Day of the Founding of Chassidus, or the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus, and he will address the crowd. To register, please visit PasadenaJewishAcademy.com/dinner. We hope to see you there. Without further ado, let's dive into the lesson. So, up until today, the whole Tanya, right, has been about the Beinoni. We've been talking about the Beinoni, this in-betweener, this intermediate man, this intermediate woman, who is trying to be his best. But that the struggle is real, right? The struggle is constant. We are always struggling between our animal soul and our godly soul, etc. The way the Alter Rebbe summarized it for us back in chapter 12, or from chapter 12 and on, is that the Beinoni is someone who has mastered a full sense of his, or full control of his garments, right? Remember that garments are the three functions we use to interact with the world. So his thoughts, his speech, and his action are completely devoid of any negativity. Meaning, because thought, speech, and action are actuality. They are in the real world already. In these three regards, he never has an improper thought. He never has an improper speech. Never says lashon hara. Never gossips about anybody else. Right? Never lies. Never cheats. And he never has improper actions, surely not. However, once you move above that, right? So his enthusiasm, his drives, and his urges are not necessarily always good. Right? Last week and the week before, we were discussing what the Beinoni's approach should be and how he shouldn't be fazed by the fact that he has these urges. That's what makes us human beings. As a matter of fact, God cherishes that struggle. The struggle that we have the urge, but we choose not to listen to it. So that's the Beinoni. Says the Alter Rebbe, and right at the beginning of chapter 29, he introduces a problem. That because the Beinoni has full control over his thoughts, speech, and action, but he doesn't have full control necessarily over his urges, over his emotions, over other things that are going on inside of him, a Beinoni can easily fall prey to something that we call Timtum Halev. Okay? So Timtum Halev, best translated as a desensitized heart, or a blocked heart. In other words, he's gotten into this flow where he always wins the battle. Right? The struggle is still there. He's always winning the battle. Should I do this inappropriate act? Should I not? I will not. Right? In other words, by a tzaddik, the first part of that doesn't exist. From the beginning, from the get-go, there's no such thing. I'm not doing anything like that. By the Beinoni, it's a back and forth inside of him, but it never reaches his thoughts. The animal soul wants it to be a negative thought, it never becomes a negative thought. Okay. But even if you've got all that going, and all that is sort of under control, the problem is you can reach this stage called a desensitized heart, where you're davening not super inspired. Right? Let's think about the things which need extra enthusiasm in Judaism. In other words, the things that are not just, right? So obviously, things like inappropriate thoughts, inappropriate actions, that's Benoni. He does struggle with that, but he always wins that. That's not what we're worried about now. What we're worried about is that you could be winning those things, but in other things which are in the realm of extracurricular Judaism, let's call it, he'll be very static. And to this says the Alter Rebbe, Sorich Lashis Itzos Benashot HaBeinoni. The Alter Rebbe quotes from Psalms in chapter 13, one of my favorite Psalms actually. Lashis Eitzos Benashot, he has to actually find advice in his soul. He has to figure out life hacks to get around this. Because he can easily get stuck in this rut. Let's give some practical examples of the rut that he could get stuck in. Yeah? Prayer. Prayer is a mitzvah. We do prayer every single day, right? The Beinoni is not going to get stuck on should he pray or should he not pray. He's always going to pray. But sort of, and I put this in air quotes because it's not really true, and it's very necessary, but the extracurricular Judaism part of it is his prayer should be with fervor, should be with excitement and passion, develop a love for God, meditation, these things, right? We spoke about this before. And a Beinoni, because that's not the struggle that he's busy with, can easily get stuck in the other struggle, and he has this timtum alev. It's blocked, right? This pathway for love to Hashem to enter his heart, it's stuck, and he needs some sort of hack to get him around it. Another example that Alter Rebbe gives. In the permissible pleasures, things that are perfectly allowed, but there's nothing in them that's particularly inspired towards God or godly about them or holy about them. Eating extra. Right? We spoke about that these are amazing opportunities to subdue the body, to subdue the bodily pleasures, and instead choose to just hold off klipa. I know you want more sustenance, you want more physicality. Let's hold off on that just a moment. We called it last week, 2 weeks ago, we spoke about iskafia, right? Subduing the klippos. But someone who's uninspired, someone who's gotten himself into this rut, someone who has this concept called timtum halev, where his heart is blocked, he ain't going to get there. And so to this, the Zohar introduces the solution. The Zohar starts with an analogy. The Zohar says, if you're trying to light a bonfire, or a torch, or whatever it is, you have this big log, you ain't going to be able to light it. You cannot take a little lighter or a match and light a log. It doesn't work. Says the Zohar, a log of wood that you cannot get the fire to catch onto it. Right? The fire here is analogous of the love and the fire towards God, or the passion for God. What do? You splinter it. Break up that log into lots of little pieces, and then you'll be able to light each one of those little pieces separately. Says the Zohar, if a body won't give out, right? Gufa de lo sadi ben nehura. If a body won't give out the light of its soul, nehura de nishmasa, if it won't allow the light of its soul to pour forth, crush it. Figure out a way to break it. Very strong statement, right? Okay. So the rest of today's lesson that we're going to spend is going to be to unpack this. To unpack this statement of the Zohar. What does the Zohar mean when it says that just as a log, if it's too thick to take a fire to it, you splinter it into many little different pieces, so too a person's body, if it's in the way of his godly soul, of his godly energy pouring through, right, the light of his neshama, you break his body. What does that mean? What does it mean to break the body? We're going to try to unpack this statement in a number of different ways. Number one, why? Why are we breaking the body? Number two, how? How do you break the body? What does that mean? Right? And the first thing, says the Alter Rebbe, and this is literally the terminology, I loved his translation of it. We're in the last bullet point of number one. I love his translation of it, but most importantly, it's the Alter Rebbe's words are so powerful. Says the Alter Rebbe, schedule ego-bashing sessions, ego-deflating sessions. We're on the bottom of page 325. The Hainu says that Dikboa itim lahashpil atzmo liot nirze ve'enam nimas kakasov. Velev nishbar ruach nishbara. In other words, says the Alter Rebbe, you want to schedule, literally schedule, moments in your day, or the Zohar is telling, moments in your day when you're literally going to tell yourself everything that's wrong with you. Yeah? Anybody do this very often? It's not very comfortable. I promise. Oh, we all do it when the animal soul wants us to do it. Smack in the middle of our day when you're supposed to be doing something productive. No, we're talking about inspired by the godly soul, a time to actually legitimately think about all the things that are wrong with myself. Right? As Arnold put it, or he was reading section 1. A tough conversation you need to have with yourself. It's time to have a conversation about the fact that ego is playing too big of a role here.
Okay, the tough conversation.
Oh, no, I was repeating. Sorry. But I like to check on you every once in a while, make sure you're still with us. So, and the goal here is basically, Psalms talks about it. King David talks about it in Psalms. He says, "Lev nishbar, ruach nishbara, broken heart and broken spirit." That's what we're looking for. Why? Why are we looking for that? You see, the problem is that at tzaddik, right? Because we're always going to contrast the Beinoni against the tzaddik to understand what we're really dealing with. The tzaddik, his natural existence is holiness. His body. That's why tzaddikim are so few and far between. A tzaddik's body, even his physical part of him, is holy. Remember we said that a tzaddik has managed to figure out a way, he's accomplished ishapcha, transformation, where his godly soul is an inspiration, where his animal soul is an inspiration for godliness, for holiness in his life. In other words, even the life force, the life source of his body is holy. So even his body becomes holy. This is why we find statements about tzaddikim, and these are statements that obviously can only be true of a tzaddik who's literally on the level of a tzaddik, like the Tanya explains it. We find statements like, I think there was, I forget the exact, that a tzaddik will never do anything bad, or that the steps of a tzaddik will always go in the right direction. Why? What happens is he's managed to reach such a stage where his body is holy. His body is doing the right thing naturally. Right? Now the problem is, like the tzaddik's body. You see, a Beinoni's body gets its life force from the nefesh hachayunit, or the life force soul, which essentially is an offshoot of the animal soul. So essentially, inherently, the Beinoni's body, and we know this because of the constant struggle that the Beinoni goes through, inherently, the Beinoni's body wants to do the wrong thing. If left to its own devices, naturally, the Beinoni's body would want to do the wrong thing. So if the animal soul is the one powering it, then our goal here is now to try to break the forces of Klippa, which have taken hold in his body. We find, for instance, that Hillel HaZaken, famous Mishnah sage, Amoraic sage, would always share with his students every time he was going to go eat. Okay? And he was on the level of a Beinoni. He would say, "I'm going to feed the poor and miserable creature." That's what he would refer to his body, because that's what it was. The body, right? Despite the fact that the Beinoni is in full control of his garments, right, of his thought, speech, and action, of his functions, he's not necessarily in full control of his actual body. Meaning, he's necessarily in control of the actions that his body does, or the thoughts that his body thinks, or the speeches that his body gives off, right? The things that his body says. But he's not necessarily in full control of the actual body, of the urges that the body has, etc., of the natural tendencies of the body. And that's why we're looking to break it. And for the next couple of points, the Alter Rebbe wants to point out what are positive ways, healthy ways of trying to break ourselves. Remember, the point of the breaking ourselves is to rebuild out of that in a holy way, right? And most importantly, our goal is to reach that stage of a broken heart and a broken spirit. Why? Because when you get to a broken heart and a broken spirit, now you've managed to break up the rhythm, break up the routine. Right? The Beinoni that we're talking about here, the whole topic of today's lesson is we're struggling with that spiritual insensitivity, with that timtum alev, with the blocked artery, for lack of a better word. Right? There's a blocked artery through which the love and the passion for Hashem flows through. And he's still not doing anything inappropriate. He's still a Beinoni. He's still winning every battle. But the artery is blocked. There's no inspiration. There's no sensitivity towards love for God and enthusiastic prayer. And the enthusiasm is gone. And the biggest solution to that, the best advice that the Zohar can offer us is break up that monotony. Get yourself to a position where you break your own emotional state. Break yourself to a point where you realize that there's things that are actually wrong with you. How does a person end up in this rhythm? Because they're like, we're doing okay. Look, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not having inappropriate thoughts. I'm cruising along here. What happens is, the way to break that is to remind yourself of things that are not so perfect about you. Ideally, to reach that stage of Lev Nishbar and Ruach Nishbar, the broken heart and the broken spirit. And from that, right, we all know that when someone is feeling good and bitter, we're not talking about depressed here. We're talking about a healthy state of bitterness over the things that in his life that are wrong. Then from that can be born a new love. Now you've reached a passionate state, an enthusiastic state. Right? So, a couple of meditations, a couple of points to remember, says the Alter, which can bring us to this state of a broken heart and a broken spirit. Number one, says the Alter Rebbe, it's important for a Beinoni to remember that even though he's on such a high level, he's a Beinoni, and we have extolled the virtues of the Beinoni to the umpteenth level here during this class over the past 10, 15 weeks. It's important for the Beinoni to remember that even though he is in such full control over his garments, thought, speech, and action, he's got it all under control, that his body, him, if you talk about him, essentially the proper words to use about him is that he's distant from God. Because he hasn't reached a stage where his existence is disgusted with bad, where his existence is transformed to only a catalyst for good. No. He happens to win every single battle. I mean, we should give him a little more credit than that. It's not just he happens to win, it takes a lot of effort, but he happens to win every single battle. But his actual existence is actually distant from God. He has these urges, and we've spoken about them over the past 2 weeks. He has these urges towards inappropriate things or negative, right? And that could lead a person to be broken by himself. Especially when he thinks that even the times when he could be almost similar to a tzaddik, right? We spoke about this way back like 10, 15 chapters ago. About how during prayer, if a Beinoni is fully involved in his prayer, he can get himself to a stage where he's passionate and enthusiastic about God. Right? Even when he's at that stage, it's essentially fleeting. It's only in this moment. Right now he has this intense love for God. But right after prayer is gone, clearly it's very temporary. Clearly it hasn't taken a proper hold in his body. These are good meditations to think about if you want to remind yourself that it's not so hunky-dory. Don't be so smooth sailing. Right? I'd like to take a moment to open a parenthetical, just to remind us all that we've discussed it many times, that even though you might not always feel like this Beinoni, there are many instances where you do. In other words, we're not always the same. Sometimes we are Beinoni, sometimes we're Russia, right? Maybe seldomly we fluctuate up to being a tzaddik. But definitely sometimes this is our struggle. That we've got this timtum alev, which means we're doing okay, we're not doing anything inappropriate, we've got full control over our thoughts, speech, and action, right, which is already a tremendous step. And you reach stages sometimes where you're in good control of that, but you're not enthusiastic about love. Right, you're not inspired. That's a good word, you're not inspired. Artists are always talking about this. What was that?
On a daily basis.
Well, no. Hopefully, there are some times when you're feeling inspired for a couple of weeks, and you heard a good story, you heard a good, sermon, I don't know, whatever, and you're feeling inspired, or whatever, you watched a good video, it was a good Tanya class, and you feel inspired for a couple of weeks. But here we're talking about when that's not the case. You're in this rut. You've gotten yourself in this rut. So this is the goal here to figure out how to deal with that. So.
But also, he needs to recognize the state.
Yes, I'm not sure that that's so difficult.
No, I mean to know that he's missing in his life.
Correct. So it's not so difficult, but I will qualify that by saying it's not so difficult if you're following the advice of the Zohar and the Chassidus and the Tanya, that you should have this designated time once a day, briefly in the evening, before retiring at night, and then once a week on a Thursday evening, right? And then once a month, Erev Rosh Chodesh, the day before Rosh Chodesh, and once a year before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, where you're actually taking a moment to actually do a self-assessment. So then, first of all, you notice when you're in a rut, like you get into this routine. But number two, and more importantly, you now have a designated time, which is a good time to actually work on breaking that routine by having these sort of meditations of trying to get yourself to a broken heart and a broken spirit. Another thing, says the Alter Rebbe, which can remind us that we're not so perfect, is chatas neurim. Every person has, certainly a Beinoni has, sins that they did maybe when they were immature, when they were young, way back when they were really, really young. Teenagers, whatever it is, when they didn't have full control, they were still exploring their body, they were still exploring different things, right? They were still exploring good and evil. They may have done many negative things. And unfortunately, the same way we said that a mitzvah lasts forever, the opposite of a mitzvah also lasts forever. If we did something negative years ago, right, even though a mitzvah is more powerful, but if we did something negative years ago, obviously at some point we've regretted the action, maybe we've even done teshuvah for it, right? You've done like a full, proper analysis to yourself, you regretted it, you take a proper resolve for the future that such things are going to happen again. Maybe you even had a similar instance where you were in a similar situation where you could have done the same thing and you chose not to do it, so you know that you've come full circle, a much better person now. But the fact of the matter is that they never really disappear, because what happens is that as a person matures through life, and we hopefully are going up in holiness and becoming better people, we now need a higher level of teshuvah for each thing. By way of example, a person hits somebody else because they said something, right? When you're, so let's say it happened when you were 15 in high school. When you're 20, you might look back at that moment and think to yourself, that was a stupid thing to do. I had it coming to him, but it was a stupid move to do. When you're 25, you might realize, I only think he had it coming to him because I was such an idiot. Okay, but I punched him, what's the big deal? When you're 30, you may regret it very terribly. When you're 35, again, this is assuming that you're becoming more of a mature person during those years. There's other types of people as well, right? When you're 35, you might think to yourself, I should really work on that. It wasn't just the fact that I hit him, the fact that he said something. It's really, there's something in me that triggers it. When somebody tells me something I feel like I need to do. So even though I don't hit people anymore, I still have that. You know what I'm saying? There's constantly higher levels. This is a very primitive example, which is one that popped in my head right now. I didn't prepare this analogy before class. There's nothing perfect about it. But the idea that there's constantly levels of teshuvah, and we're constantly getting to a better state, even with regards to something that we did many, many years ago. Something inappropriate, something that came from a particular emotion, something associated with our body, right? Something lustful or whatever it is, right? And so that's another thing. No matter at what stage of a person's life, you can always remind yourself of certain things you did when you were really young, and that helps to bring you down, almost to bring you down off that routine, to make you broken, which will inspire hopefully new yearning. Right? Because the idea here is this sort of distance makes the heart grow fonder. The idea here is you reach this sort of plateau, this static plateau of Timtum Alev, where the arteries are blocked, right? This desensitization of spirituality. Breaking yourself a little bit, getting yourself to a place where you realize, I yearn for God. I wish I was a little bit of a better person. I want to work on myself to be a better person, right? Almost getting yourself, the word depressed is not the right word here. It's more of like a distance, recognizing the distance that we have to God will inspire a yearning for God and therefore grow fonder, right? Hopefully a more intense love for God. And then even beyond that, the Zohar always teaches that even if you're perfect, even if you don't, there's not that many things that you could think about, or maybe there's somebody who never sinned in his life, right? For a hypothetical example, right? The Zohar encourages us that it's always a good thing to be a Mara de Chushbon. It's good that when it comes to your spiritual self, when it comes to your emotional self, to your moral self, it's good to be almost a little bit obsessive, or not OCD, but like the words that the Zohar uses is Mara de Chushbon, an expert accountant. You should be making calculations. Too many calculations is also no good, right? But at designated times, once in the evening, for that day, to think through the day, right? What was good, what was bad, and to remind ourselves that every action we do in this world becomes a chariot for something, right? Either it's going to be a chariot for positivity, or it's going to be a chariot for negativity. Read the Alter Rebbe segues into talking about what happens at night. Right? Think about it for a moment. When the soul, right? So we're taught that when a person goes to sleep, the Talmud says, when a person goes to bed at night, and they finally retire, and they fall into sleep, into a slumber, their soul leaves their body. I mean, Kabbalistically, maybe here with the Tanya, we should clarify a little more. There are 5 levels to the soul. Most of the soul leaves the body. Right? We don't have our full soul in our body even now. We only have 3/5 of our soul inside our body. 2/5 always remain above, and they sort of funnel spiritual energy down towards our body. When the person falls asleep, even more of it goes up above. And you're only left with like that base level, enough to keep you existing. Which is why so much of our mental, intellectual, and emotional states are gone. That's why the imagination rules so much during sleep, because everything else is busy getting new energy, and that's why when it comes back down in the morning, we say Moda'ani, we thank God for giving us back our soul, giving us back our life source, etc. Now, another thing we do in the morning, after we say Moda'ani, is we wash our hands. Why do we wash our hands? Because we're told that when the soul leaves the body, or most of the soul leaves the body, it's now, the guard is down. And so the forces of Klippa come because they know that this is a Jewish body, they know that there are holy, there used to be a soul here, and now there's all this residue of the holiness here. They want energy. So they attach themselves to our body. When we wake up, the soul comes back in, it banishes all those forces from the body. We're told that as it leaves, a little bit is left on our fingernails. That's why we wash our hands in the morning. Everybody's heard of this custom to wash our hands in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, you should take a vessel and pour once to the right, once to the left, once to the right, once to the left, once to the right, once to the left. 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that sort of gets rid of the last little bit of negative energy that we have inside our bodies. Now, this is the origin of negative dreams. The dreams that we might have that might be inappropriate, or we think about the wrong things during our dreams, or we might possibly even cause our bodies to do something negative during the night. Now, we have to remind ourselves that the thoughts that we have throughout the day, with the speech, with the action, things that we do and we're involved in throughout the day, we let our mind wander. Everything that we do throughout the day affects the night. That's why it's such a good thing before we go to sleep to think about all these things and divide them. What did I do today? Okay, so I gave someone I know needed some tzedakah. Great, tzedakah. On this side. Whatever I said something not so nice to someone, that goes on this side. Great. Yeah, that's easy. But what's about the meal that I ate? It's going to be a chariot for something. Did I choose to use that energy for God? Did I choose to funnel that activity to make it more godly, or to make it a little bit more godly, or to, right, maybe even before I ate, I waited a moment and said, you know what, let me take a moment to think about God, to thank God for the food. Right? Or did I just move right into it? And when we have that sort of calculation before you go to sleep at night, then you recognize which ones you want to be a force and which ones you don't, then it affects your dreams and the way the night goes. Okay. And this is basically the culmination, or this brings to a conclusion, the first tactic, which is trying to break ourselves, right? If you got yourself into that spiritual rut, that spiritual insensitivity, this is a good thing to do. To try to break yourself and think about all the negative things in your life. You know what I mean? Like, because there are negative things in our lives all the time. We should obviously be thinking about them to try to correct them. Right? But not always do we dwell on them and realize how distant we are from God. Here, the idea is to meditate on our distance from God in order to develop that yearning and that which will hopefully lead to a more inspired, more passionate love for God. The second tactic, says the Alter Rebbe, is harnessing our inner anger. What does that mean? It means inspiring or provoking the nefesh elokit, the godly soul, to get up and scream at the animal soul, literally. Right? The Talmud. This is based on the Talmud. The Talmud of Brachot mentions that one should always make his impulse to good angry at his impulse to evil. You should literally inspire, like almost what's the word? Rile up your godly soul, to start screaming at your animal soul. And this is so powerful. This is so well written. So I want to read it inside. Okay? Let's read it inside. Arnold, you were so desperate to read. You want to read for us a little bit?
I wasn't quite
Page 334. We're going to read through it. Basically the whole section 6. If you can read the rest, the whole section 6, but skip all the Hebrew and put some drama into it. Okay, this is literally the Alter Rebbe's suggestions of words to get your godly soul to say to your animal soul. This inner conversation inside of yourself. Talking about the voices in our heads, right? Go for it, Arnold. And in addition to being... Yeah. No. I'm in the book. Page 334, section 6.
334, page 134.
No worries.
In addition to being repulsed at your animal soul, you should also employ a further technique of encouraging your divine soul to become enraged with your animal soul, with the thunderous voice from Ezekiel of anger in your head, to humble
the Sitra Achara, which means the other side, the forces of evil.
As our sages blessed memory taught, a person should always make his impulse to good anger, and that his impulse to evil, as the word states, get angry and don't sin. In Psalms 4.
Meaning to
say, get angry with your animal soul, and that is with your impulse to evil, and with a thunderous voice of anger in your head, and say to him, you are bad, sinful, and disgusting, repulsive, and wretched, etc. Along with all the similar terms with which our sages of blessed memory have rightly used for the impulse of evil.
Right? So this is the Alter Rebbe literally explaining that you should try to rile up your godly soul to be upset at your animal soul. So this is another tool to break up the monotony, to shake up this spiritual insensitivity, to realize how upset your godly soul is at the fact that it's stuck. Your godly soul is essentially imprisoned in this body, and there are instances in which the animal soul is leading the war. And get him upset at him. You should scream at him. Say to your animal soul, for how much longer will you hide before the blessed infinite light? Tanya offers a brief meditation on the nature of God's infinite light. An infinite light that floods all the worlds and is devoid of any limitation, such that simultaneously he was, he is, and he will be, all at once. And even in this very place where I stand, the infinite light shines, and his infinite light remains alone, just as it was before the world was created, since there is no existence independent from the light. And since there is no new independent existence, the infinite light has experienced no actual change, as the verse states, for I, God, have not changed, since God transcends him, etc. And on page 336, the enraged conversation with your animal soul continues. But you, the godly soul is talking to the animal soul, you wretched one, etc., deny this self-evident truth, that in his presence everything is considered zero, which is as obvious as if it were seen visibly. And what are the results that we can hope for when following all of the above advice? And through this, you will help the eyes of your divine soul to be enlightened by the non-dual reality of God's infinite light. Right? Remember, the whole point here is to get in touch with the non-dual reality. Right? The fact that the world and God are not two separate existences. We've spoken about this at length. With a clarity and certainty normally associated with actual sensory vision. Without the uncertainty which inevitably comes through using deduction and logic alone. As is explained elsewhere, that is the root of all worship. Powerful, no? You could see it. You could almost feel the emotion and the passion coming off the words of the Tanya. Says the Alter Rebbe, what's the point of all this, right? Whichever tactic you use the tactic of anger, riling up your godly soul to be enraged at your animal soul, or you use the tactic of broken, right? That feeling of yearning and like you're so distant from God, you want to be closer to God, and realizing all the flaws that you have as a person that you want to fix. Says the Alter Rebbe, what's the point of all this? The problem is there's a bubble here. It really is. There's a false reality here. The Sitra Achara, the forces of negativity,
doesn't exist.
Right, doesn't really exist. Right, we're trying to get to that non-dual reality. The problem is that they're given the ability to exist, at least superficially, as powerfully as the forces of holiness can exist. Why? Because we have to be able to have equal choice, right? Freedom of choice. God wants it. This is a quote from Tanakh, right? That each one is created equal to the other one. It has to have, now it's not true, the forces of good are more powerful, but the forces of evil are given at least the appearance, the superficial appearance, that when a person looks at them, he has to make a choice, and that choice could go either way. What we're looking for here when this person is stuck in a spiritual insensitivity is to pop the bubble. Just hold on a little longer. Put in a little oomph. Break yourself. Get yourself angry at yourself, right? Get your animal soul, get your godly soul angry at your animal soul. And with that powerful emotion, pop the bubble. Pop the bubble. And then all of a sudden you realize, no. I know that sometimes I fall, right? Let's say when it comes from the broken heart and the broken spirit. I know that sometimes I fall. It's such garbage. I don't want to be imprisoned within the force of sleep, but it's nothing. It's really nothing compared to God. God created the whole world, and I want to be one with His infinite light. And all that takes is popping the bubble. Sometimes it feels like it overwhelms us how big that bubble is, but just pop that bubble, and it becomes clear that you yearn to be one with Hashem, to be connected with holiness. The example that Tanya brings is of the spies. It's very interesting. The spies, right? The famous episode of the spies in the Bible. It says the words are they use the words chazak hum mimenu. Right? They come back and they have a negative report. We can't go into the land. Why? Ki chazak hum mimenu. They are stronger than us. Right? And mimenu in Hebrew means from us, than us, stronger than us. But the Talmud tells us in Tractate Sota that instead of reading it mimenu, you can also read it mimeno. They are stronger than him, referring to God. Now, part of the problem that the spies did was they came back with a lack of emunah, lack of faith in God, lack of belief in God. Of course, they could be stronger than us, but they should have known that God is going to help us fight it. They came back thinking it's all about us. You see, the interesting thing is, though, that just a couple verses later, we're all taught, and we all know that the story of the spies was negative. They came back and gave a negative report. The whole generation of the Jews of the Midbar and of the Jews of the desert ended up dying out because of that. But just a couple verses later, they say these exact words. Hinenu v'alinu. We're ready to go up to the place that God spoke about. So what's going on? Do they believe in God or do they not believe in God? This is it. This is the bipolar two extremes. This is the battle we all struggle with. They struggle just like we do with that bubble. Oh my God, they're so strong. The Yitzhar, the Nefesh Bahamis, the animal soul, they're so much stronger than us. Right? But just a few verses later, they managed to get a grip on themselves and pop the bubble. Separate discussion about what exactly was wrong with their approach, etc. Okay, a discussion for another time. But that bipolar attitude that you see in them comes from that. Or in the analogy of the Zohar. The prince, who his father sends the seductress, right, to go and try to seduce him, try to convince him, try to get him to be, right? And she's there, and she's using every tactic, and she's so powerful, and the prince almost feels like how could I even give in, how could I not give in to her wills? But it's all just a bubble. If he'll just pop that bubble, he'll recognize that even she doesn't want to do what she's doing. She's only doing it because her father, everybody remember this analogy? Right? She's only doing it because her father told her, go and tempt him like that, he'll become stronger. If he'll just pop that bubble, he'll realize that, of course he doesn't want to do this. Nobody wants, even she doesn't want to do it. Even the Insensitivity itself, even the Klippa itself doesn't want us to get involved with it. Even negativity itself, even the animal soul itself doesn't want us involved in this business. And so to summarize, what we learn in chapter 29 is that when we're stuck in that rut, and we're stuck in that spiritual insensitivity of reach this plateau and I can't get myself out of it and I'm so uninspired, shake it up, pop the bubble. Whatever emotion it is you want to use, right? The Alter Rebbe says the best one is broken. Break yourself. Break your body. Recognize it. I'm not all it. Have a tough conversation you need to have with yourself. Schedule ego-deflating sessions. Literally. In the evening, before you go to sleep at night, take a moment to think about how it's not all going perfect. I've got many things wrong with myself. Why? Not because we're looking for you to be depressed. We're looking for you to be broken and so develop this deep yearning for God. Because you're missing that. You're missing that you're uninspired. You want that, exactly. Break the timtum. This timtum alev, this blocked artery. Pop it. And find that powerful passion that really lies deeper inside every single Benoni, every single potential Benoni, every single one of us. That potential for love and passionate experience and enthusiasm for God. With this we end chapter 29, Spiritual Insensitivity of Jewish Mysticism, Lessons in Tanya. Thank you all for joining.